Somebody willing to start off with the sharing? You guys want to share? Sure. Who wants to be the first to share?
We have communicate now all our products from the top level down that we're all now responsible.
So start to communicate that we're all taking responsibility for this stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So some messaging. Right. What else?
We thought of answers on many different levels for how to create the culture of quality. Starting with just the product and the portfolio, you need to have clarity around things like what is the problem this product is going to solve? What's the value we deliver to the customer? Because aside from all those things you can do at the team and the practice level, if your product is kind of shifting back and forth from sprint to sprint, then your team is going to be whipsawed. You'll have all kinds of technical efforts that are half done.
Yeah,
Because the priority got changed.
Focus is an amazing thing. Focus is an absolutely amazing thing when you see it at work. We call it the great clarifier. Right? You know, you ever have a product owner and trying to prioritize something they can't decide? They probably don't understand the purpose of their product. People understand the purpose, it becomes very clear what's most important, what's least important. When you have a lot of people screaming out in the field and they're like, I'm going to help this person, I'm going to help this person, I'm going to help them, it's usually because they do not understand the purpose of their product or the purpose of what their company or organization is trying to do, so they're just flapping out in the wind because they don't know. When you know, it's very easy to make decisions. Right? To have good, solid purpose, it's very easy to make decisions.
So someone here brought up setting team standards, and I think that really what that says is you might not be able to affect the entire culture, but if you can demonstrate the right culture in your team, you can get people to notice that in the company.
Yeah, so you hit on a huge point, right? When I keep saying you're in your own prisons, I think one of the problems is, our manager, how does your manager set your quality level for your standard? How? How does that happen? Because it starts with you. Right? If your personal quality level is up here, I have yet to find a manager who says, you know what, you're just working a little too aggressively at being good. You need to settle down. Right? So it starts with you, and then by proxy, your immediate sphere of influence, your team members. I've seen 1,000-person companies transformed by one team picking up and putting a stake in the ground and saying, we're not going to take it anymore. And we don't care what anybody else is doing. We're going to do what we need to do. I've seen teams say, you know what? You want to give us a team room? F you. We're going to go book the conference room every day for the next month to show you because we value that enough. We're going to do it whether you like it or not. Right? We set our own prisons. We have the ability to set the bar for ourselves at a minimum. At an absolute minimum, you have the ability to set the bar at least for yourself. Most places, if you do that and you step up and you speak through action your standard of quality, people will rise to that level of quality, that level of excellence. It's contagious. It really is. It's contagious. When you see people that are really on fire for doing the right thing and really pushing and really, as human beings, we're wired to want to learn. Go take a 3-year-old and give them a paper box and watch them explore. We're wired to learn. We're wired to create. We desire that. Most of us, when we're in our cubes, feel like we don't have the ability to do that, and that's probably why we're dejected, angry, and miserable. You set that bar for other people, they will thrive on it. What else?
Co-locate all the team members. Don't separate by functional.
So create cross-functional teams and get them located in the same spot. Okay. Sometimes a big company, they've got these little things called facilities departments that are kind of a pain in the butt to deal with. But if you can do it, absolutely, it's a reasonable place to start. What else?
We have open and brave conversations and debates.
Yeah, open and brave. Now, it's healthy to argue. That's another thing that this culture, and when I say this culture, I mean American business culture, is starting to propagate, is that it's not okay to dissent or to argue about things. If you look at the heart of innovation, you look at the heart of where the best ideas come from, it's from people with opposing viewpoints battling it out. There's healthy eradicating unhealthy conflict. But I'll say if you've got a culture where everything says, well, you're not allowed to say anything, like if you disagree, you're not allowed to say that you disagree, that's really unhealthy. Right? So being able to have hard conversations, 2 really great books on this, Crucial Conversations and Fierce Conversations are a great way if you want to improve, to help teach you good techniques on how to have meaningful conversations that are difficult. That's why it's called Crucial or Fierce Conversations. Okay? Very hard to do. Very hard to be effective at having conversations about things that people might not want to hear. What else?
Pressure. Assign some development time, the percentage of developers' time while the QA testing is going on for the product. Assign the developers' percentage of time when the QA testing is going on.
Assign to what?
For the developer, so that the developer can spend some time.
Okay, so start getting more cross-functional,
Yeah.
right? By allocating, making sure
Allocating
that
the
people
time,
are understanding.
yes.
Okay.
Do retrospectives?
Retrospectives, right? That's huge. That's when we talk about improvement. That's one of the easiest ways to start to improve. And if you're not taking an assessment of how you performed, right? What do you think happens after every major sporting game, whether it be football, baseball, whatever? What do you think the coaches do?
Review the film.
Yeah, they go back and they review the performance, and then what do? They probably bring the team in and they talk about where they saw problems. Now, you're no different than a sports team. You might not be hitting the ball, kicking the ball, shooting the ball, right? But your performance matters to somebody. Somebody's paying you to perform. Somebody should be taking the time to look at the game film, talk about the game. How do we improve so that we perform better in the next game? Right? What else? One more.
PSP, personal software process.
Do what?
It's a tool which measures the performance of our own development process, like what you said. We have to
So use a tool to measure some of it. Okay.
to set our own goals and to measure our own performance.
Right. So set some standards. Right. Say like, hey, we went back and saw the game film and we only got on base 3% of the time. We want to get on base 10% of the time. That's our new goal for next game. We'll call that successful. Whether we win or lose the game, we don't really care. We want to see if we can, improve in that area. Right? Same kind of thing. Hey, we've got this kind of code thing. We want to measure it. We want to try to shoot for performance increase in it and see if we do. Right? So, for me, empowerment of people. Okay? Part of this is you cannot create culture with miserable people. If people are not having a fair amount of autonomy, they will not be happy. It's science. It's not me saying it. There's tons of science. Dan Pink's probably the leader in this field when it talks about psychological motivation. One of his big things is autonomy. Got all sorts of studies that talk about giving people autonomy. Now that said, you can put things inside of a box. Autonomy and empowerment doesn't necessarily mean you get to decide absolutely everything. I'm not saying from a manager's perspective that you show up to work one day and the manager says, just do whatever you want today. Okay. They have to provide you the purpose. Hey, we're trying to get to this. I need this thing. I'm going to let you decide how to create that thing. Right? So they can put parameters, they can put the box around it, but at some point, you can't prescript everything. If you prescript absolutely everything, people check out. And when they check out, they don't care about a standard of excellence. When they check out, they don't care about the people they work with. When they check out, they're not engaged. You're not going to be able to create culture with people who aren't engaged. You have to empower people. Okay? You have to encourage emergence. You have to embrace, we don't know what we don't know. And we're going to discover things along the way, and we have to adapt to those things. I think one of the problems that we come from in the software world is it's a high-risk industry. And because it's a high-risk industry, people who put money behind it say, I want to mitigate my risk. Traditionally, the best way to mitigate risk in most things is to have a really strong plan and execute against that plan. That works really great when we're talking about finite resources. If I'm building a building and I need wood and I need steel and I need cement and I need all these things, I can control a lot of that. I'm not able to control all the costs per se, but I can control a lot of this. In software, we're talking about what's between the ears. It's not measurable, it's not controllable, so trying to plan for it is really, really difficult. So we have to